So you guys, so think about this, you know, somebody taking in Skittles, right? What's going to happen? I mean, so you're thinking you're helping yourself out, and some of you have heard the story. My son had a soccer coach, and not going to tell you where or who, because he's a wonderful man. But he told the boys, they were in middle school, told the boys, hey, take some Skittles before the game. You know, and I'm like, oh, by halftime, they're going to all be exhausted. You know, it's going to all be gone. And I am much more of an advocate, so I pulled my son aside. I said, we're not going to say anything, but this is what I'm going to have you do. I am going to have you eat more fruits and vegetables prior to even going, you know, and then you can fuel when you come off the bench with some fruits or vegetables, and at halftime eat something, and that will sustain you longer. You know, so, but what happens is you have to, those stores are going to come and they're going to be used up very rapidly. And so you have to be careful. It has to be given to your body the right way. And we'll talk about that on Monday. So here is, Sam, this actually is the slide I was saying was going to come. If you look on, okay, figure 410, this one, okay, that's what this is saying. So you have an increase in your triglyceride and glycogen, okay? And so here you can see that. So untrained muscles on the top, on the bottom is a trained muscle. So you have these increased stores in there of those. Your glucose transporters, those receptors are increased. And so that allows those then to get into the cells better. And then here, I have this marked in my book somewhere, because I wanted to read it off of there. And I've started throwing my stuff all around up here. But the mitochondria, hold on. Okay, yeah, now I've lost it. But the mitochondria increases, here we go. A muscle cell mitochondria density increases, which then the enzymes that metabolize carbohydrates in the muscle cells will increase, and especially the oxidative enzymes that are needed for the Krebs cycle. So those are all happening when you endurance train. So if you endurance train, if you're prepared that way, and then you put the right fuel in, your body is going to use it more efficiently. And so, you know, when we look at this picture, then we're seeing that, okay, here's our actin and myosin down here, our sarcomeres, surrounded by all of these mitochondria now because they've been trained. The stores, there's more transporters to get that glucose in, and you have more of the triglycerides and the glycogen present. So actually, that was good timing. I just didn't realize it was that good of a timing. That is all what's happening when you train and then if you properly fuel. Okay. All right, so our anaerobic work, I am so out of order here. Here we go. Intense anaerobic activity burns glucose. We've talked about that, right? If you have a greater O2 demand than a greater O2 supply, you're not able to move into that fat burning as easily. Okay, so no oxygen, no fat. So that is why in the anaerobic work, it is strictly that glucose. And then now you have that lactic acid. They talk a lot about that lactic acid is one of the reasons that we end up at fatigue. They're starting to say that more, they don't know as much about it, but more that it's the hydrogen ions that are floating around that are causing the fatigue as opposed to the lactic acid as much. You can recycle that lactate to then be used more to give you more glucose, if you remember that from the previous slide. So the anaerobic work then, we are looking at mostly carbohydrates. So if that is the case, you know, when we talk about sprinters, they need to make sure that they have that supply as well. Okay, and so here's just kind of another way to look at this. High intensity, high glycogen use, that's where you're in anaerobic. Low intensity, low glycogen use, you're in aerobic, and so you're able to use the fat. In moderate activity, you have the oxygen, it's equaling the demand, and it uses then both the glucose and the fat and that oxygen in, and that you can keep going through that cycle to get more of your energy at that moderate level. Okay, so you're using both the glycogen and fat when you're there. So I wanted to, this is what we'll end on today. So I wanted to talk about that. I just brought up those free hydrogen ions that are floating around. Have you guys ever heard of people using sodium bicarbonate, so your baking soda? It is a buffer that can be used to keep the pH higher, which is more alkaline. And then your hydrogen ions can be buffered a little bit, and so it's not acidic. Some endurance runners have used those as ergogenic aids. Those of you who had me for strength training, did anybody talk about that as their project? Yeah, not in here. A couple people have in the past couple years about sodium bicarbonate. And so endurance runners have used that to buffer so that they're able to keep going. Now, the only issue is it can cause upset stomach, so it's not something you want to try the day of a race. You're going to want to try it and practice with it. And it really is just ingesting some baking soda and water, and just to neutralize the acidity of the muscles, because that is where the fatigue, that is their theory. Not a whole lot is known about it, but that is the theory of what's working there. So anyway, okay, so make sure that when you come Monday, that you look over these next page. I think I can get through the next section pretty quickly, and then we'll move into specifically carbohydrate loading, pre-meal, post-meal, during a race meal, or an activity meal. Yeah. So look over that and come prepared, okay? Have a good one.
Yeah.